G'day ladies and gents, Cubic Meter here with a follow-up to my video introducing synchronous dropper auto crafters. In my last episode, I demonstrated a 2x2 auto crafter which can do 18,000 operations per hour. In this episode, I want to show off some additional configurations that can have specific applications which can be quite useful. And I'll also go through a tutorial building them up from the shulker box loaders to aligning the minecarts, and then finally setting up all of the storage tech over the top. To start with, in my opinion, is perhaps the most useful synchronous dropper auto crafter. This can handle 3x3 recipes, however it has the restriction that the recipes have to be rarely symmetric. They can only do 4 different item types surrounding one central item, which essentially restricts it to this pattern, where the first slot is repeated in the 6th slot, the second slot is repeated in the 7th slot, the third slot is repeated in the 8th slot, and the 4th slot is repeated in the 9th slot. The middle item is of course assigned to the middle slot. And this means we can do some very useful recipes such as dyeing concrete, dyeing glass, or dyeing terracotta. And these recipes actually output 8 items per operation. So we can actually do these recipes at 72,000 items per hour. It can also handle any recipe in which you have a common item type surrounding a central item. For example, you can do lanterns, golden apples, and also you can craft jukeboxes to fuel your furnace array. The reason we are restricted in what 3x3 recipes we can do is of course because we are limited to accessing only 5 sides of the crafting table. And this means that we actually have to halve the speed of this particular crafter over our 2x2 crafter, which that does 18,000 operations per hour. This one only does 9,000 operations per hour. However, with access to recipes that yield 8 items per operation, we actually get the rates back up to 72,000 items per hour, and which of course still demands our 8 times hopper speed shulker box loaders. Now I will demonstrate the system working. Something that needs to be understood about this is that our 4 slots here, these will unload at 2 times hopper speed. Our middle slot, on the other hand, because we're doing 9,000 operations per hour, the middle slot is only used every operation. These slots, however, are used twice per operation. So you'll need to put twice as many items in these slots as you put in the central slot, which means we need double speed unloaders for our outer slots, and you only actually need a single speed unloader for the middle slot. So I can turn this on now. The way this works is, because we can only put in 5 items at a time, we actually keep the collection system locked for the first 5 slots. Then the instant we fill the next 4 slots, we then unlock it and the items get pulled out. And in order to prevent the middle item from firing twice, it is of course kept at the end of the other 4. So we have our 4 items for the outer slots that fire first, and then our central item fires into the center. In the next operation, these 4 slots get filled. Our central item will then overflow over to here, where there isn't actually a slot. And that way, we always maintain that we use one of the central items every operation. And once again, our shulker box loaders keeps everything in balance. As you can see, we're making white concrete powder here. At the end of this crafting operation, we should have 8 boxes of concrete powder. You know what that sound means? Our crafting is now done. So you can switch it off. And there we have it. 8 boxes of concrete powder. So you're probably wondering about these crafters here, right? In my opinion, these are slightly less useful than our universal systems because these are very application specific. For example, this one here is a single item converter. What this means is that it can only handle a single slot and it can only handle a single item per operation. This one actually does 72,000 operations per hour. So it reaches the maximum capacity of our shulker box loaders with only a single slot and a single item per operation. The way we achieve this is we have 4 droppers, each being loaded at 2 times hopper speed. These are all run on clocks which are offset by 1 game tick. And the result is a machine that is very satisfying to turn on. But despite this satisfaction, it does have some significant flaws with its operation, and I'll get into that shortly. So the issue I have with this particular design is that it's crafting a single item every game tick. Hopper carts can actually handle pulling a single item every game tick. However, each one of these shockbox loaders can only handle half that rate. So with the preferential hopper cart system, one of the hopper carts will actually pull the items at faster than the loader can handle it and will actually back up, while the other loader isn't actually operating at all yet. But once this overflows, this will start picking up the excess. And the result is that you get slightly more items in total in here than you get in this side. And therefore, at the very end of your crafting operation, you get partially filled boxes. And so you're required to have this system here, which actually forces the box to be ejected at the very end of the crafting operation. Here's a design I like to call the blender. This is because it is a 2-slot crafter which combines 2 different item types. Its primary use is blending dyes together. However, I would consider this design as superior to this one here because not only can it handle two different item types and 2 slots, it can also act as a single item converter. So instead of having to build your 2 separate machines, you can only build the one machine and you can use it for both applications. So I'll just turn it on now. Here we just have 2 separate observer clocks which activate 2 game ticks apart. And so we have 2 pairs of droppers which fire at the same time. As you can see, it blends the dies together very quickly. It actually looks quite impressive if you look in the crafting grid. In this setup, we're only doing half as many operations per hour as this machine over here. So this is only achieving 36,000 operations per hour. However, when blending dies together, you actually get a crafting yield of 2. So once again, the rate gets back up to 72,000 items per operation. And you can see that by the fact that our 2 shulker box loaders are both being used to their full capacity. And of course, because we're doing 2 items per operation, it's once again getting split evenly between our hopper carts. I think what I'd like to do now is go into detail on how to build these in your own world. I won't be doing a block by block tutorial. There will be a world download that you can get the machines from. However, there are some tricky processes involved, such as aligning the hopper carts, which I want to show here. Now, I strongly suggest that if you want to do complicated redstone in Minecraft, that you get the Lightmatica client mod. This allows you to render schematics of machines. So here I want to load a schematic, 8 times movable tile into the loader. And here it renders a bunch of glow blocks showing me what needs to go where. If I activate hitboxes with F3 plus B, it will even show me how entities such as hopper carts need to be aligned in the machine. Unfortunately though, schematics will not show you how to get these hopper carts in these particular positions, and that's what I want to show you. So here we have the movable tile loader without the sticky pistons in the top here. That is because we need to get the hopper minecarts in before we can add those sticky pistons. The way we do this is we put down some solid blocks and some rails like so. Placing the hopper carts on top of the rails and pushing them so they're right up against the hitbox of our chest. This gives the minecarts a slight offset so they could intersect the collection area of multiple hoppers at the same time. We've just aligned them to one axis so they can be pulled from by these two hoppers. If I break these rails, I can just get my body in there and then push the minecart over like so, so it bumps up against these chests here. Once that's done, you can remove chests, remove the blocks underneath, and as you can see, they rest on top of the hitbox of the soul sand, which is slightly shorter than a full block. That way, they are just within the collection area of these 4 hoppers underneath. In order to get your sticky pistons in, you need to push them in from above, because having an entity here means you can't actually place solid blocks. There we go. Our piston's in there so that its hitbox intersects with the minecart, however that's fine. Another thing I suggest doing is encasing these minecarts in glass. The reason being that mobs and animals can bump the carts and then put them out of alignment. However, if you encase them in solid blocks like so, that ensures that no entities can get access to them. So here I can bump right up against the glass and they're perfectly safe. The great thing about this Shulkerbox loading setup is that it's compatible with all of the synchronous dropper auto crafters that require any amount of output from 1 to 8 times hopper speed. Here I've just got the schematic for the 2x2 universal crafter loaded on top of it, and I'm going to show you how to align these minecarts here in the middle. We want to begin by figuring out where our center is, which is the crafting table right here. Underneath where the crafting table is positioned, we just want a slab. And in order to get the minecarts in, we start by putting 2 solid blocks like so. And we stack up end rods. These end rods will allow us to align our minecarts. So if we look at where the directions that our crafter is facing, we've got our filter cart on this side. It has to be pointing in the positive Z direction. And it's important that our filter cart is the first cart that's placed. Therefore, it gets preference for the items that get pulled out of the crafting table. Here we just have our item collection carts. Doesn't matter which order these two are placed, because either way, it will either prefer one loader or the other. In order to align our carts to the center underneath our crafting table, we need to use a mob head. That's because its hitbox is exactly half a block. Therefore, if I get a piston like so, I want to power this piston and then destroy the piston before it retracts. So here, if I extend the piston and break it, the minecart rests perfectly up against our mob head. And the other way, this time we can just use this cart to align these two. As you can see, all aligned perfectly. Now we can remove 1, 2, 3, 4 end rods. Drop our carts down so they rest on top of the slab. Clear out these end rods. And what I suggest doing is just encasing them in some more glass. Here we have them sitting nice and snug within our system. Now we need to set up this item filter. All that's needed is you can just place this detector rail so that it intersects with the hitbox of our filter cart. And then you can simply build this filter circuit using the schematic. So here I've just set up another movable tile into the shulker box loader. An important note that I should make is that you do not rotate these schematics. These machines are highly directional, so they have to be facing in a particular direction. And by default, the schematics should load with them facing the correct orientation. Here I have the 9,000 operations per hour 3x3 crafter that does specialized recipes requiring items surrounding a central item. The hopper carts for this are much simpler because they're just simply sitting on an activator rail and aligned to some iron bars. All that's needed is activator rail, 2 bars, place down 2 carts, and then give them a bump with an entity. And there you have it. These carts are now ready to collect items. And this setup is common for also the single item converter and the 2-slot die blender. You might notice some more hopper carts up here in the machines where the shulker boxes get unloaded. This is a 1 wide tileable double speed shulker box unloader that I really like to use. It's not quite as good for 1 wide tileable applications because putting them next to each other means that if one slice ejects a box at the wrong time, it can cause another slice to fail to place another box. However, this is very rare, and in cases where box ejection is synchronized, such as in auto crafters, it's not really an issue. The way I generally install these systems is I start with top part and I'll align the carts underneath to achieve as much hopper speed as I require. What I generally do is the hopper cart will be aligned underneath this piston. All I need is to bump the cart like so, align it to any partial block, starting with a partial hitbox, make sure the majority of it's still in this activator rail, because what will happen is this torch here ensures that the cart remains locked when the box is empty. So there'll be a comparator here. That comparator will sit on top of a hopper. And then what will happen is when a box gets ejected, it will go into this hopper here. And when this torch will be powered, the inside of the box is empty, which will ensure this rail's powered, and it'll lock this hopper cart so the box doesn't get collected by your item stream. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed these synchronous dropper autocraft designs and find them useful for your own builds. I apologize if you're expecting more detailed tutorials on how to build these. However, I have like half an hour of footage doing a block by block tutorial for simply the 2x2 universal crafter, and it wasn't even 3/4 of the way done, so it started to get quite excessive. If you actually want to see block by block tutorials for these designs, just let me know. Let me know they'll be worth my time, and I'll release some separate videos about those. In the meantime, I want to start making videos about the cyclical autocrafters because I'm getting a lot of demand for those particular designs. If you want to be notified when I release these videos, just feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.